call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia Board of Education, Tuesday, June 25th, 2013. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely. Yes. Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Here.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Here.
Dremmel.
Yes. Mrs. Blakely, will you lead us in the pledge?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Barshinger, are there any changes to tonight's posted agenda?
Yes, we have three additions to the agenda tonight. To your agenda, under Section 3, we'll be adding the Batavia Fine Arts Council. In Section 5.2.2, let me get to the right spot, Employment of Administration, we will be adding the employment of Lisa Palacey as Director of Student Services, and we will be adding Michelle Erickson as employment as Assistant Director of Data and Assessment.
Did you say three? Oh, that's two people.
Yeah, got it. Two people, one item.
All right, do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Gaspar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Under item 3, we're going to hear about our celebrations. Our Batavia High School Principal, Joanne Smith, could you come and tell us about our celebrations this month?
Thank you. I am here tonight to celebrate the class of 2013, who I have some of the members behind me, so if they want to...
Come on over here.
Yeah, come on. Right. There's the camera, so you guys have to be on camera.
Get a good look at you guys.
So there's a reason why these particular students are here, and that is that in our graduating class of 2013, there were 27 students who ranked number 1. And in order to rank number 1, and these are 5 of them, they've had to take at least 9 honors and AP classes since they're past their freshman year, which most of these students far surpass that. They are capped at a GPA, and there's a benchmark they reached. So these students are here. I'm going to introduce them. Callie Livingood, Kelly Sheehan, Kevin Rashke, Diane Bernadoni, and Zach Strittmatter. So that's why they're here tonight. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the class of 2013. In your board book, you have several pieces of data, but it's also up on the projector. So the honor roll data is there for you, and it's a comparison between last year and this year. The number of students who are at each honors level, and we did have quite a jump in the number of students in the class of 2013 compared to last year. And so, like I said, 27 of the students from the class did rank number 1, and they took an average of 32 credit hours, almost 12 of which were honors or AP. So they took quite a few. They definitely challenged themselves in their 4 years of Batavia High School. The next graph, just to kind of give you a reference point for this, is the comparisons of deciles. So our top 10% of our class, what did their GPA look like, and so on. It's a little bit deceiving only because this class, they were able to take a few more weighted honors classes than the class before them. So if you're kind of wondering why the numbers are so much different this year than last year, that's likely the reason, but they are pretty similar as you kind of get down to that top 50th percent. Under achievement results, this is, I think, a really exciting piece to this. This class of 2013, 135 students took at least 1 AP test. And total, 220 AP exams were taken. So a lot of students took more than 1 AP exam in their high school career. Next down there, you'll see some achievement exams. This is also very exciting. The class of 2013 reached the highest ACT score for English and for math in Batavia High School history. So that's a pretty exciting number for this class. Finally, the final transcript request. So this kind of gives us a picture of where our students are heading after Batavia High School. So 93% of our students reported to us that they were going on to a university of some sort. Our highest number of transcripts sent were to Abanzi. And you can kind of see down from there the numbers for each college. The ones with asterisks means they were not on the top 10 list last year, and they made it to the top 10 list this year, so it was kind of a change. I think that's interesting information. Also this year, Dr. Hitchens talked about at graduation that this class was a class of firsts, and they were the first graduating class to go to NIU, and most of you guys were there, and that was a very exciting time. And we are looking and gathering information from parents and students as to the location and date for graduation for next year. We had a focus group this evening. Mr. Gaspar was there, and we had about 40 or 50 parents and students show up this evening to kind of give their feedback and input about graduation for the class of 2014. So we will be giving a recommendation to Dr. Hitchens soon, and she will share that and get your feedback as well.
Can I ask the kids something? Can I just ask, have you guys decided what school you're going to and what field you're going into?
I'm going to Washington University in St. Louis to play football, and I'm going to study chemistry.
Good.
I'm going to Case Western Reserve University, and I'm still undecided.
University of Minnesota Twin Cities as an honors psychology student going into pre-law.
Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville for pharmacy.
I'll be going to University of Colorado in Boulder studying electrical and computer engineering.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thanks for coming.
Next, we'd like to hear from the Batavia Fine Arts Council.
Thank you so much for getting us on the agenda here at the last minute. The Batavia Arts Council is an independent organization in town, and it's relatively new. Our whole mission is to support the arts in our community, be it visual arts, theatrical arts, performing arts, to support young students who are looking for scholarships to go on to college, to support individual artists in town or individual art projects in our community. Our very first offering is this $500. We've raised this money through a special event that we do annually. It's a polo tournament event. Last year we raised a little bit of money. It's coming up in July, on July 21st. It's at Blackberry Polo Field, a little polo field here in Batavia that a lot of people don't know about. So we raised $1,000 last year. It was our very first fundraiser. We're hoping to do a whole lot better this year. So you can look for information on that on Batavia website, Batavia Main Street's website, downtownbatavia.org. But this is $500. The purpose of this is we discovered that studio, which you're going to hear a little bit more about, was trying to purchase a pug mill for the arts departments that are shared between the middle school and the high school. We also learned that they were missing about $500 shy of their goal to actually purchase this. So our board agreed for our first contribution to the arts community to present this check, and we're going to let Sharon Mitchell, who is a member of the board, make that presentation.
On behalf of the Batavia Arts Council, we would like to present a $500 check to Stage, and I think you're going to tell us more about
Studio.
What did I say?
It's all right. It's just Studio, which is the parent booster organization for the art department.
Thank you so much.
Great.
It's going to be tough to fold this and put it in my pocket.
You guys get a little closer together
Sure.
so we get the photo opportunity right back here. There we go.
There you go.
Right over here, please. There we go. And one more, just in case I was shaking. There we go. Thank you.
I've got a couple cheat notes. Oh, it's not with you guys, not cheat notes. No. I've got a couple of notes. I was kind of the last. My wife is very involved in the art community. I've got a couple notes. She gave me a stack of things to go through. I'm going to keep this as quick as possible. First of all, thank you so much for the donation. This is going to go for a pug mill. And in spite of what you may think, a pug mill has nothing to do with raising dogs. I got a little explanation of what that is. Any clay that has not been fired can be reclaimed. Waste material can be thrown into the pug mill and reclaimed in minutes. Considerable savings will be realized. The middle school and high school combined purchase about 10,000 pounds of clay a year, with a third of that being wasted. The loss of approximately $833 per year will no longer be realized with the use of the pug mill. The studio was started not too long ago. Like I said, my wife has got a passion for the arts. She got involved. We have an incredible group of art teachers at all the Batavia schools. And with their support and the support of Studio, they raised money through a variety of different events, some of which are BHS Runway, Wearable Art Fashion Show, the NAHS, which was the first year that was started. That's the National Art Honor Society. The annual AP show,
BHS Fine Arts Festival, and they support any other programs that directly support visual arts at RMS and BHS. The amount of time that's gone into this is absolutely incredible. It's given me more time to go out and golf and things because my wife has been out supporting this. And I'm going to give you a brief explanation of Studio. The purpose of Studio, Batavia Visual Arts Boosters, is to encourage and promote the enthusiastic interest in and appreciation for the various activities connected with the Batavia High School and Rotolo Middle School visual arts departments. Studio lends all possible support, both educationally and financially, to the arts students. We thank you so much. We thank you guys, and we thank the school district for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening under public comments, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scafidi. She'll give you a pink form that has our board policy for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the form, as we're required by state law to keep a full set of detailed minutes for our meetings. And if you prefer to provide comments in written form, there's a blue form that Kathy can give you. And when you address the Board of Education or Administration will not enter into dialogue on an issue. It doesn't mean we don't take your issue seriously. If you have unanswered questions, a board member or an administrator will get back to you regarding your matter at a later date. If you have any props or visual aids that you wish to use to address the board, please have those reviewed by Dr. Hitchens, our board elected secretary, prior to your presentation. And we ask that everyone who addresses the board to please come to the microphone so they can be heard. And we have one? Yeah. Right? Sylvia Keppel? Yes. Hi. Please join us.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Keppel. I live at 1420 Becker Avenue in Batavia. And today at noon, there was a finance meeting. From that meeting came a whole bunch of questions. Regarding the athletic field redevelopment plan, the master plan costing $13 million as of February 2013 has not yet been approved, to my knowledge. Superintendent Barshinger was reported March 1st to have told the Chicago Tribune that you had been turning down potential donors for athletic field improvements due to lack of a concrete plan. Now, this afternoon, Pat Brown talked about fundraising already underway. Did I miss something? This plan hasn't yet been approved, but now everyone is acting as if it's a done deal. What's going on? The field redevelopment proposal needs proper vetting. The majority of the newly elected board members said publicly that they don't think this plan is right for Batavia, at least not in the foreseeable future, given the state of the economy and our current tax rates. So slow down. $13 million is a lot of money. It deserves public input from the taxpayers who will be footing the bill. If this passes as is, as I've told Mr. Barshinger, I will have this put to referendum. There are a number of people who have agreed to help me collect signatures. Regarding the report on the Fine Arts Center, it was reported that 60% of the use was by the school district, 40% for rentals and presentations. Taxpayers are on the hook for 100% of the Arts Center's debt repayment plus operating costs, and have suffered over 11% in tax rate hikes to in part pay for the center. This center that the school board has promised would not raise taxes. Given the information presented this afternoon, I cannot measure whether or not the FAC is being operated successfully. Now, is that 40% of the time used for out-of-district private venues bringing in enough revenue to cover 40% of the debt repayment plus operating costs of this facility, as it should be if properly managed, or are we the taxpayers now subsidizing private venues? What are we taxpayers actually getting in return for our investment? And when is it projected that the FAC will be self-supporting? I would like to see that breakdown, please. Again, from this afternoon, why exactly are we demolishing and rebuilding the middle school track? I have not personally been there to see it, but when I asked a couple of people who have been on the track within the last year, they did not see any problem that justified the expense. Please explain this decision. And it was reported that the high school had an electric bill of about $600,000. Are the Fine Arts Center and the Field House included in that figure? I would like to know the cost of electricity for those two facilities, and if these costs are being factored into rental costs for non-district usage. Then I have some comments to make on the school district website. Today I went to the website to find out information on the meeting, and the website is terrible. Today, the calendar was not available, and the board meeting schedule tab includes none of the special meetings, like this afternoon's, that occur at noon or 3:30, or whenever most people who may be interested are at work and cannot attend. 3 of the 4 budget-related links did not work. There are no contracts over $25,000 posted beyond the 2011-2012 school year, and for the longest time, the legal notices page was for open bids was blank. Unless were there really no bids for extended periods? Information on the athletic field plan, a huge current issue, were absent. Whoever is responsible for the website is not doing his or her job competently. In addition to fixing problems, please make the meeting agendas more transparent. I would like to see brief descriptions of the topics to be covered, not just vague titles listed, so the community could be more involved in matters that concern them. For example, number 7 for discussion today was 7.1 BHS Athletic Field Redevelopment Plan Revisions. I would like to see a summary of the proposal, just a very brief, the amount of dollars to build X, Y, and Z, and also maybe a link to click to that would give you the full proposal. Links to the BATV recordings of board meetings would also be most welcome on your website. Finally, I'd like to formally request that the monthly accounts payable, essentially the school district's checkbook, be posted online in an obvious, easily accessible location so that we taxpayers could see where our money is going. The Batavia School Board has made the news repeatedly in the past couple of years for financial reasons, for breaking its promise and raising taxes, the highest tax rate increase in Kane County in 2012, for having the highest paid superintendent in the Fox Valley and the highest average teacher's salary in the Tri-Cities, for having its financial ranking downgraded, and for lavish spending on $13,000 conferences with $2,000 steakhouse dinners, and the latest $25,000 in food purchases from Panera to Jimmy John's. We don't want to see any more such stories. Transparency fosters accountability, which results in wiser use of funds, hopefully. Geneva already posts their checkbook. It's time for Batavia to do the same.
And thank you, we do.
Okay. But you don't have the...
It's on the website.
I couldn't find it. With the monthly expenses?
I'm sorry, I should have interrupted. Go ahead.
With the
time's about
okay.
up, so go ahead.
Okay, remember, it's my money that you're spending. I want to see exactly who and what the checks are being written for. And then just maybe you board members may also look at the individual checks instead of a spreadsheet with summaries of numbers too great to adequately grasp and say what we spent that much money for what. It's no laudable achievement to balance a budget by raising taxes to cover unscrutinized spending. The tax rate increases on Batavia homeowners are unsustainable. Families are struggling. I want to challenge this new school board to seriously examine the district's spending and make significant cuts so that you can not just freeze but cut taxes and still balance your budget. Only then will you have done your jobs responsibly. Please take your position seriously, representing the taxpayers who elected you, instead of being rubber stamps for an administration that first seeks its own best interests. Thank you.
Thank you.
All that information that you requested, if you want that information, we don't answer questions here, so please submit that as a FOIA request. And you can give that to the recording secretary if you would like that submitted in that way.
Next, we'd like to move on to our partners in education. Is there anyone here from Bestwood tonight? Okay, I'd like to invite Tony Millay, our BEA president, to address the board. Hi, Tony.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening. Just a few comments. First of all, yesterday was another fantastic golf outing, rain included, as usually is, but it was still a great event, and the support that the community shows in that particular event, along with many others, is evidence of the commitment that this community has to Batavia Public Schools, and that makes it a great place to work when there's so much support. The next thing I'd just like to mention, hearing the change in agenda tonight with the selection of Lisa Palacci as the Student Service Director. I think that's very welcome news. Very happy to hear that, and I know my members will be very pleased to hear that also. Next thing, pension. Got to mention pension. As you know, the legislator did not act on any pension reform except to form a commission. We are very concerned about this commission because the majority of that commission had voted to do unconstitutional reforms, and so we are going to be continuing to put pressure on them. And finally, I would like to just take this opportunity to congratulate you, Jack. It's been my whole tenure as president has been with you. Exactly, we started the same time. And, you know, it's been a fantastic 7 years. It's been a pleasure working with you. I have learned tremendous amounts from you. You know, just because you're superintendent doesn't mean you're not a teacher anymore, and, you know, you've taught me tons. I hope you realize, as you look back, that you're leaving Batavia a better place than when you came. And if I can finish my career like that, I know I will have succeeded, and I just hope you know that. So, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Item number 4 is our oath of office. On Monday, June 17th, the Board of Education had a special meeting for the purpose of interviewing candidates to fill our board vacancy. At that meeting, Melanie Impastato was chosen as our preferred candidate. Do I have a motion to appoint Melanie Impastato to the Batavia Board of Education to fill the vacant position that runs until the election on April 7th, 2015?
Second.
Moved by Locke, second by Blakely. Kathy, will you call the roll?
Blakely? Yes. Gaspar?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stutes?
Yes.
Dremmel?
Yes. Melanie, I'll meet you around the other side. If you'd like to come forward, we will do the oath of office.
That might be the best place.
Because we'd want to be on camera, it really gets scared. All right. We don't want to be separate, so we're not. All right, if you would repeat after me. I, Melanie Impastato,
I, Melanie Impastato,
do affirm that I will faithfully discharge the duties
do affirm that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Member of the Board of Education
of the office of Member of Board of Education
of BPS 101
of BPS 101
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States,
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the laws of the State of Illinois,
and the laws of the State of Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I further affirm
I further affirm
that I shall respect taxpayer interests
I shall respect taxpayer interests
by serving as a faithful protector by serving
as a faithful protector
of the school district's assets.
of the school district's assets.
I shall encourage and respect
I shall encourage and respect
the free expression of opinions
the free expression of opinions
by fellow board members
by fellow board members
and others who seek a hearing before the board
and others who seek a hearing before the board
while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall recognize that a board member,
I shall recognize that as a board member,
I have no legal authority as an individual,
I have no legal authority as an individual,
and that decisions can be made only by a majority
that decisions can be made only by a majority
vote at a public board meeting.
vote at a public board meeting.
And I shall abide by majority decisions of the board
And I shall abide by majority decisions of the board
while retaining the right to seek changes
while retaining the right to seek changes
in such decisions
through
ethical and constructive channels. And if you could follow all that, welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
All right, and I would also like to take a moment to welcome Jake Burkhardt. He is going to be our new student ambassador. And Jake, there's an oath for you too, if you'd like to step forward. Yours is shorter. I, Jake Burkhardt,
I, Jake Burkhardt,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of student ambassador of the Board of Education
the duties of student ambassador of the Board of Education
of Batavia Community Unit School District 101.
of Batavia Community Unit School District 101
That in accordance with the policies
in accordance with the policies
of the Board of Education.
of the Board of Education.
I further swear that
I further swear that
I shall encourage and respect
I shall encourage and respect
the free expression of opinion
the free expression of opinion
by myself and board members
by myself and board members
and others who seek a hearing
and others who seek a hearing
before the board.
before the board.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, that was hopefully the hard part. Okay, item 5 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Dr. Newkirk, will you read the consent agenda?
I sure will. There are 17 items in tonight's consent agenda, including the following. 5.1, the approval of minutes. There are 10 sections under the approval of personnel, including resignation administrative, employment administrative, with the addition of 2 people, including Lisa Palacey for the Director of Student Services and Michelle Erickson for the Assistant Director of Data and Assessment. The resignation of certified staff, the retirement of certified staff, the employment of certified staff, the employment of seasonal staff, the employment of classified reassignments, the employment of classified staff, requests from leave, requests for leave of absence extensions, and that concludes the personnel section. 5.3, the approval of routine financial items, including the net payrolls and the complete listing of the bills. The treasurer's report. 5.5, the approval of destruction of audio recordings. The review of closed session minutes. The approval of donations. 12 FOIA requests received by the district. 5.9, the Prevailing Wage Act. 5.10, the recertification of hazardous busing for the 2013-14 school year. The disposal of surplus district property. 5.13, Juniper Support Agreement Renewal. Microsoft Volume License Agreement. 5.15, the Division Coordinator Benefit Book. Revisions to Policy Section 2, Policy 260, the Uniform Grievance Procedures. And then 5.17, the Flexible Spending Programs.
And I am actually going to pull 5.16 from the consent agenda for clarification after. Do I have any other items on the consent agenda for removal or clarification?
Yeah, under employee seasonal, 5.26.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with 5.2.6 and 5.16 removed, and then the 2 additions to 5.2.2?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Stoops, second by Gaspar. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Dremmel?
Yes. Motion passes. Board Member Hodge has removed item 5.2.6, employment seasonal, from the consent agenda. Greg, would you like to speak to us on that?
Well, we have a policy regarding nepotism, but it exempts part-time and seasonal employees, and my son took a job as a seasonal employee, applied when he was in college, and has been working with the building and grounds department, but in the spirit of transparency, I want to abstain from that vote.
Okay. Then Board Member Hodge has removed it, so he can abstain. Do I have a motion to approve 5.2.6, employment seasonal? So moved.
Second.
Moved by Locke, second by Blakely. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Dremmel?
Yes. Motion passes. Regarding item number 5.16, at this time, we're not actually recommending any changes to the wording of the policy, but we do need to update the contact information for the personnel listed in that policy. So the policy itself will be reviewed by the policy committee before any verbiage changes are made. So do I have a motion to approve item 5.16 with the name changes for that policy?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Yes. And we did not go through it item by item, but on our consent agenda, we had a number of new employees, and I know that a number of them are here. So Dr. Newkirk, would you take a moment to introduce anyone who's here tonight?
Sure, we have a number of administrators that will be joining our team, and if you could please stand and introduce yourself to the board. Tonight we have with us Carrie Rue. She's an assistant principal at our elementary schools, including Alice Gustafson Elementary School, and Hooverwood Elementary School. Welcome. We have Marcy Mazzullo. Marcy is also an assistant principal at the elementary level, and she will be working closely with our students at H.C. Storm Elementary School and Louise White Elementary School. Welcome. We have Lisa Palacey. Lisa Palacey will be celebrating her 20th year in the district in various positions at the end of this next year, but has accepted the position as Director of Student Services. So thank you, Lisa.
Welcome.
And then we also have in the audience our new assistant principal for curriculum instruction at Rotolo Middle School, Mrs. Lori Fiorenza, and she'll be working closely with the administrative team at Rotolo. Welcome.
We have 2 items for action under item number 6 tonight. Dr. Barshinger.
I would like to talk about 6.1, MyPayNet network license agreement. And I'll just do a short introduction, but about 3 years ago, our district tech staff wrote some computer code, and I'll just go that far with, I won't go in depth with it because I can't, but wrote computer code that assisted us to move to an online registration process. That system, its first year worked well. It worked better last year. We're about ready in our 3rd year. As a positive step, we've been contacted by the vendor that we use to process credit cards, in which they would like to license that code and sell it to other school districts, and which we would receive some royalties back. And since code and anything produced and written during in relationship, whether it's on time or off time, is owned by the school district, that would be a job for the Board of Education to approve that agreement. So I'd like Don Seawall, our Director of Technology, but that's not quite it, and Jason Ott, who assisted in teamed with the group to actually write the code, to just share a few things much more in depth than I was able to go as far as this computer project.
2 years ago, Jason Ott and Tony Inglesi set out to improve the registration process for the families of the district as well as the district staff who worked on it. At that time, there were no built-in features to PowerSchool, the information system, to accommodate the registration process. So parents would log in and enter in their information, pay their fees, and they'd be all set, but none of that information would be into PowerSchool. Then there would need to be manual data entry for each of the 6,300 students, their registration and fees information into PowerSchool. It was cumbersome to say the least. So Jason and Tony identified an area for improvement and kind of just rolled up their sleeves and hand-built a system that would fill this need. The parents would still log in, put in their information, pay their fees, but then it was automatically in PowerSchool with absolutely no data entry for these 6,300 students. It eliminated hundreds of manpower hours and saved money for the district. MyPayNet, the group is that handled the financial transactions, was really impressed with their work, and as Dr. Barshinger mentioned, is seeking an arrangement to license their code to other customers that use PowerSchool. And there could be financial benefit to the district. Right now it's pending approval, as you probably know. And so right now Jason's going to talk a little bit about how he and Tony developed this.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, without going too deep, I know I care very much about the engineering side of things personally.
But that was a key word we gave Jason, by the way, this afternoon. Not too deep.
Yes, I that stuff excites me, and I could go on for hours about it, but I won't. So real quick, we'll just do a real quick walkthrough of kind of the process, the iterative process that we went through kind of developing this. And so the system, version 1, took about 5 full months of development time. Most of that was actually just reverse engineering PowerSchool altogether, figuring out how it stores information and how we can write code surrounding that and automatically input things into it. For those that like to count, there's about 1,200 lines of code. Some of the pros of this system is it worked-ish. There's a whole lot of words I can use, but realistically, it was really difficult to maintain. If we wanted to go to or give it to another school, it really wouldn't have worked well at all. So it's not scalable. It's just inefficient, and it suited the need for round 1. But since we're always learning, always growing, we came up with version 2. Took a lot less time to develop, but we actually wrote most of it from the ground up. And this way we could actually hand it over to MyPayNet as is, and they can take it and use it in just about any other school district setting. There are still definitely some cons to that system, and version 3 will eventually is what we'll end up giving them, which will go live August 1st for collecting fees. And that's all great and fun, but really we're mostly interested in what exactly did we provide the district. Some fun statistics that we kind of were able to glean from this is we found out that the first payment received was at 5:46 of August 1st. Mind you, we turned it on at that time. We can see when parents try and get into PowerSchool, and we told them, between the hours of 5 and 6, we'll turn it on for you. And at 5 a.m., we could already see people hitting PowerSchool trying to pay already. We were processing 11 transactions a minute. We actually ended up having, I think it was like 30-some thousand transactions for the month of August alone. And by August 30th, we had 83% of our students paid for and registered for classes. What's really interesting about that number is within the first 2 days, we had 53% of our students paid for and registered for classes. There's about 1 activity fee per student if you average it out. Also, I have a whole page of statistics here I could go over for hours. It's really interesting. And again, I won't do that. And then the big one is in 2 years, and this is a really conservative guesstimate. I talked with some administrative assistants to get some feedback and tried to calculate some things, and we saved at least 500 FTE hours in the 2 years that this has been in production, which I think is the most, that's probably the coolest statistic of it all, quite frankly. But then finally, to put the amount of transactions per day into perspective, I made a quick graph for you guys, and you can see on July 1st we had 0, and then it just boom. The first couple of days is amazing growth, and then things just start to trickle, and we're actually, I think the last payment we received was 2 days ago or something. So people are still doing whatever, buying, whether it's an a la carte fee or paying for school, So yeah. Do you have any questions?
Can you go back one more slide for just a second? Kevin, could I just ask you to move your head a little bit that way, just for 1 second? Where it says unreliable method to
curate
fees and then inability to track the transitions. I just want to make sure I understand something. Is it for every transaction that you're having a hard time?
No, it's actually replayability.
You say the con to it, that's where I'm trying to make sure I understand.
Sure. So when I say inability to track transactions, what I actually mean is right now when we send data, we log it, send it, and then we log everything that we receive. But in version 3, what we end up actually doing is tracking each query that's run against the database. So if there's ever an error, I can isolate in 0 seconds what that error is, why it was, and then we can remediate that very, very quickly. Whereas here it's a little bit more cumbersome.
Okay, and so then when they get all done paying and all that, and that's my wife's job. She does the paying on that, but when she prints it out, I know there was a time where it was hard to print out and all that. Now it's going to be all simple and itemized and everything.
Yep. And we've been working with MyPayNet, and they've been helping us a lot. And so we now have on the receipts an itemized list of what you've purchased, and
Well, I think it's a great job that you guys have done and make things maybe a little bit easier and faster for the citizens to pay for things, and because a lot of them do want to get it done with and get it out of the way and all that, so.
I think the other part is the hours of people standing in line in
Yeah.
very hot gyms in August.
I think that's a good thing that you guys have done.
You didn't have to stand in line. Oh, yes.
You missed it, though.
And the other part is the transaction. It used to take us about 2.5 to 3 months to process all the checks and all the fees to get them in the bank. And this is efficient. We know they can close every day the transactions and verify it with the credit card company, and now with the individual receipts has really been very tremendous. You talked to Jason in there about 500 hours of our staff time that it took to do the balancing and accounting. I would love to multiply the 6,000 parents and students that stood in gyms in line to pay their fees and registrations. And Lisa, I think it was like 2 days at the middle school, 2 days at the high school.
Full days.
Full days, yeah, about 12-hour days, and having people go through that. And watching all the secretaries trying to sort the paper and all the different applications that were color-coded amazingly well, but the overload was incredible.
Well, thank you for taking the time to work on this. I mean, that's a good thing. Glad you enjoy that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I have a question. You mentioned version 3. When is version 3 going to be released, or?
Yeah, that'll be released August 1st. I'm finishing testing it up with MyPayNet probably next week, and it'll be good to go by then.
And just with the licensing, with every time the district works on a new version, will they be required to release that to MyPayNet?
No, so I believe it's in the contract that they'll be working with updating the code. So right now, the way it works is there are 2 disparate systems. And because MyPayNet will hold the license, they actually want to take our intellectual property, the process behind putting the data back into PowerSchool, and actually wrapping that into their system itself.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
That was the question.
I do have one question. You had said that there were some other schools that were interested in this?
Yeah, I know for a fact Burlington had contacted us about it. But then MyPayNet, I believe, and I haven't confirmed this, I talked with them, but I can't confirm or deny anything. But I believe they have at least 6 schools lined up for using, already to use our code.
So one of the little details that it's taken us a while to get done with our legal counsel's review is we're not, help me with this, we're not a licensed
PowerSchool provider, I believe is their vernacular.
Or partner.
Partner, thank you, yes.
So we don't have the rights to sell our code to anyone. We might be able to give it, but MyPayNet is a partner. So they're using our code. They're gaining something out of it. But we're not telling you that the vendor is not, but they're sharing of 20% of the fees that they receive back to the school district is actually helps us because we could not do anything without them with this code. We don't have the rights to sell it. So that's a great partnership, and I really respect them for understanding the talents of what we had done. We had set a goal about 3.5 years ago, because you said 6 months working on it, and I know we didn't give much lead time about trying to stop with the in person-to-person registration, where people were taking off days of work, trying to get in during odd hours, trying to get all the sports fees and everything that needs to be done as school opened, and not starting that process months and months in advance and doing it in a more concise period. And the first version worked well. I would say it worked well because it accomplished what we needed. And then we had the accounting issues internally to get all those funds to the right activity accounts, especially at the high school, was cumbersome. Last year, it went much faster and very easy to account for, other than some minor errors in our accounting for those fees, and we're cleared up, and version 3 is the learning process that will make that align very well, and basically look for reconciliation that will be a fairly short process. So would recommend the board that you enter into the licensing agreement with MyPayNet to share 20% of the net revenue in exchange for intellectual property, computer code, owned by the district, pending satisfactory final review on the versions piece, which we're still trying to give it a name from the board's attorney.
Anyone have any final questions?
One more. Is the licensing agreement in perpetuity, or is there an end date to that?
I believe there is an end date, and I believe it is one year after Power School integrates or opens up their API for public use.
Which we think is about 1.5 to 2 years, but rather than put the hard date in,
correct,
it really goes to when Power School does an upgrade, and we would have to do a major rewrite, and we believe Power School will actually be integrating this into their software.
No more questions? All right, then do I have a motion to approve the MyPayNet Network License Agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Gaspar. Kathy, will you call the roll?
Blakely. Yes. Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Trammell.
Yes. Motion
Stop,
passes.
Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you for being clear and concise.
Good job.
And not too deep.
So I have to tell a little story. Jason and my youngest son is a computer programmer, and they've met several times, and I have not an idea what they talk about, but they do talk for hours about something code-related and green screens, so.
Okay, next, Dr. Barshinger, could you please present the Preservation of School History Intergovernmental Agreement?
This item is actually just, I think, as exciting as the last one, but I've been working with George Sheets for quite some time, and George is a local school history buff, and probably the person I turn to get the most information about the history of the school district. That's how I knew I was the 9th superintendent of the school district, and Dr. Hitchens would be the 10th, because as we discussed it one morning at Rotary, 2 days later, Mr. Sheets from the Batavia Library had the history and all 9 superintendents since we consolidated in 1911? Yes, 1911. Oops. 1911.
He's not a Batavia graduate.
Yeah, yes, math was never the big part. So George Sheets has put together, and we've had through legal review, but this is an agreement that will preserve our public access and our public records and a variety of whole area. Our responsibility is to provide the records to the library. They will do, and that's our risk of giving some of our historical documents to them. They will do everything they can to preserve them, but we can't hold them liable for anything that may happen to them that would be unforeseen. And they will begin to microfilm and make digital historical records that will make some of our research much better.
And will that be available for public viewing?
It will be all available. We're working on the second source, but the first source, yes, it will all be available at the library and as well as here at the school district, but probably easier access at the library. We're also hoping it will be available at the Park District's Depot Museum, but we don't have that agreement done yet.
Oh, okay. Does anybody else have any questions about our Preservation of School History Intergovernmental Agreement?
I do. I think it's a great avenue to go for all the work. The one thing, and I had relayed this with Lisa and Chris earlier about, on one of the items was the surplus of equipment and stuff, the old equipment. And to me that's part of history and all that, I know the high school's going to be 50 years old, the new high school in 2016.
Yes.
And where I was worked for the last 33 years, turned 100 years old. So going back and having an open house and showing preservation of items was hard to find. So I would like to keep in mind that if there's old equipment like a record player, or a film strip that people don't know but was used back then, maybe a picture can be taken of some sort that can be there. The physical part can't be there. I mean, because history I do enjoy, so I just wanted to pull that out now just in case we just don't pitch everything. Because we always want to go with the new, seems like. But sometimes we have some value in looking at some of the old stuff and what we come from and so on, and how we've used it. So just a thought.
The Depot Museum has many artifacts from our original high school down on the corner, from the master clocks and some of the items. We still have some of the study hall desk is here in this building yet. We've offered to give that to the Depot Museum. They don't quite have space for it, but
I know space is
we preserve it. The meeting that your board closed session meetings are in. You meet often on a library table that was preserved out of that I can't remember what year the original high school was built, but almost 100 years old now from that study hall table. That's where all the drawers come from. You can still read the names on the inside. You thought that was past board members that did the graffiti inside the drawers with it. So I think that's a great idea. I know Mr. Inglesi several years ago opened his opening day technology speech using a 16 millimeter projector, and which I think most of our staff would probably fail. And you and I, John, probably went to class on how to thread those projectors.
And ran it backwards.
Yes, exactly. So that's a great idea.
Just wanted to bring it up.
I think this is the first step in really getting some of our paper records and getting them so they're accessible. They are accessible, but it takes us a lot of digging right now, whether they're on-site or off-site, and getting some of that information. So to get it in a digital format will be great.
Great. Example of some of these that were on there, the old school newspapers, your books, stuff like that. That will be really cool.
Yes.
As a graduate, I would love to go back and look at some of that.
Yes. And just the last piece that we're working on with legal counsel is how soon can we release yearbooks, which actually there isn't a limit on. But some of the other photos, we have to wait about 5 years, so it'll be about a 5-year. It's not a copyright, it's something we want to do to make sure everybody is 18 and of age and some of those other things, and preserve some confidentiality. And we do ask now about confidentiality, so we'll be able to delete some who don't want photos shared and others. So we do have those records, and otherwise we've got to wait for some time to expire to do that. But the library really wants to start back quite a few more years than just the most recently. So.
Well, can I add to what Greg just said, the yearbook? Does Batavia High School, or is there a place in Batavia that has all the yearbooks going way back when?
All available at the high school. I don't think we have all of them here, but they're also all available at the Batavia Public Library.
Going all the way back?
Well, yes, but let me tell you, there is a 18 or 20-year period in which, through budget cuts, the Board of Education cut the yearbook at the high school. And so we lose a lot of history right there because of that yearbook. And George Sheets and I have done some purchasing on eBay personally, and done some donation of annual reports that we found on eBay from the school district, and filled in our records where some of those in the early 1900s were missing from our records. So George does a great job of following the eBay and anything relating to Batavia, and it's cost me several personal dollars in getting some of those reports to add to our archives, because we didn't have it. And it's just fascinating reading.
Well, you could also put something out there too, that anybody that has a family member that still has them in there, because that's how we got some.
Well, and we think that may come in a couple of years as we get some of the records. And part of ours is we're bursting at the seams with paper records, and so that storage, but asking people to share those with us so that we can get them digitized, and then giving them back would be a great process that we want to look at. But we want to first see what we have and what records that might be missing. There was, in our old location in downtown in the old bank, there were several floods that we lost some old records, and people may have those that we may be able to fill in, but we want to get a first chronicle of what we have and then start filling in what's missing.
Thank you.
That is great. Did you make the recommendation?
I would recommend the board approve the agreement with the Batavia Public Library and this intergovernmental agreement to preserve and provide public access to microfilm and digital historical records of the Batavia Unified School District 101.
I didn't ask.
I'm sorry. History, I'm ready to go.
Do I have any further questions?
I just have one. It's just a question I asked Lisa. I just wanted to ask you. The way I read the intergovernmental agreement, it's basically dealing with the materials that will be shared. And I assume there's no cost to the district to this?
Correct.
It's completely being undertaken by the library?
Yes, yes. They have staff and interns, so they have a process already, and they have the equipment, which we don't. So, yeah, that's why it's a great process. We can do this, but it would cost us a pretty sum.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, then do I have a motion to approve the Preservation of School History Intergovernmental Agreement?
So moved.
By Gaspar. Second by Hodge.
Thank you.
Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Rimmel?
Yes. Motion passes. Item 7 is for discussion only. Dr. Mon, could you introduce our next item?
Absolutely. This is the second time we're bringing this item to the Board of Education, but as this is a new board, which most people have not seen this item yet, we wanted to bring it back and get your input and bring you up to date on the work that's been done. Over the past many years, since we have constructed the additions at BHS, a lot of our attention has turned towards the grounds and the field space that we have available there. We've fighting for field space and getting all the teams on our own campus and finding other places for our teams to compete and practice has always been tricky at Batavia High School. It's a smaller campus than many high school campuses are these days. And every time a proposal for a particular improvement would come up, we would always be a little bit leery because we always knew we needed to do a big plan for the high school, and we didn't want any random act of improvement to get in the way of something that might be bigger or be a more comprehensive plan. Within the past 12 months, 18 months, we've actually been approached by a couple of private donors that would like to donate money towards making some significant improvements in some of our fields. However, we did not want to approve anything that would get in the way of a larger plan. So we knew we needed to finally sit down, bring together some stakeholders, and really do a collaborative process to determine what do we want the plan for our fields at BHS to do. So we asked Pat Brown, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, to bring together all of those stakeholder groups with an architectural partner. And beginning in November, he began the process of bringing all those groups together. So this plan is really here to inform you, and then later this summer, we may ask for your approval that this is the right plan for our facility. But I'd like Mr. Brown to come up and talk to you about how the plan was created, some of the features of the plan, and the next steps that he may go through.
Good evening, everybody. Just to take a minute, Chris touched on it just a little bit, but just to recap the process in general. Back basically a year ago, summer ago, we went through the process of selecting a new architect. We had partnered with BYF, Batavia Youth Football, the sports boosters, and the music buffs, all expressing a commitment and desire to see changes happen on the athletic fields out at the high school. So with those partners, we started the process with the architect to come up with a plan, and we worked for a number of different months going back and forth with drawings, eventually narrowing it down from what at one point in time was 4 different concept drawings down to the concept drawing that is in front of you today. Back in February of this year, we presented that to the board, and then obviously given the changes that have happened on the board, we wanted to re-present this plan again. So for some of you, this is deja vu, and I'm sorry that I'm back here re-presenting it one more time. So elements of the plan. I'll start with the stadium. The proposal is looking at putting a synthetic field in the stadium. It serves a number of different purposes. The most important piece is the playability for us. We were able to schedule more events on that field, given that the site is so small. It's roughly a 40-acre site. It's actually 46 acres. and over half of that is consumed by building. So you're down to about a 20-acre site, and trying to run all the different programs through there becomes quite a challenge. Particularly given the fact that should we have any type of inclement weather, we can very quickly lose a grass field. So by putting the synthetic surface in there, it allows greater playability for us, and that was one of the primary factors that we looked at in the stadium. We do not currently allow anything other than varsity athletic competitions to happen on the stadium. We don't allow practices. We actually send kids off-site to other facilities to practice so that we can preserve that area as much as possible. Staying within the stadium, we are also looking at the potential of putting an 8th lane. So the proposal shows an 8th lane for the running surface out there. That is to benefit the track program. When you have only 7 lanes and 8 different schools represented in your conference, it makes it a little bit awkward to run your heats in 4 and 3. We're also, with the stadium, looking to improve the grandstand seating. If you've attended a football game, we do bring in on Friday nights additional bleachers. We rent those because we don't have enough capacity in the stadium as it is for our regular attendance. So this would increase the seating capacity on the home side from roughly 1,800 to 20, I forget what the number was. I believe it was 2,200.
25 years.
It was a 25, I'm sorry. And it also corrects some of the issues that we have out there as we've been looking at the need for maintenance on those. We have at least $100,000 represented in the capital development plan of items that do need to be corrected, whether it be because life safety codes have changed. We have the bleachers certified annually, so they don't pose a safety risk, but they do need updates to get into more compliance with current codes. So that would address those issues as well. Circulation at the stadium during larger events is also one of the major issues that is addressed with this plan. Because of how tight the grandstand is to the field itself, it creates a bottleneck on the home side when people are trying to get around. We are redirecting circulation with this plan to the backside of the stadium, and also with adding a plaza that you can see that would be to the west of the current concession stand that allows for better flow, better circulation of the site during those larger events that we have there. We're also proposing a alteration to the concession building itself. Part of it is in response to the fact that we are shifting where the circulation is going to be, so we're moving some of those windows that concessions would be served out of. And then also to change the location for access for bathrooms, and to look at providing some additional storage. That's actually one of the small balloons that are there on the far right page of the plan. You can see those purple, pink areas are representative of a small addition that would be added onto that portion of the facility. As we continue west from the stadium itself, you get to the varsity baseball field. Important to note the football field and the varsity baseball field, and then one more time also the varsity softball field, which is actually currently the smaller level, the sophomore level field. All those stay within the same footprint on the site. But we're proposing that the baseball field get new backstops, which they're probably one of our greatest concerns on the grounds at the moment, to get the backstops replaced. They're starting to lean in on themselves. We've had to make modifications over the last few years where we used to have kind of an angled piece of fencing that would help with pop-ups from going into the crowds. Because of the weight of that, and it's starting to draw the fence in on itself, we had to cut those off in response, but we could not pull the trigger on the $40,000 or $50,000 to replace those backstops because we didn't know exactly what the plan was going to be. So in this plan, we would rectify that issue and also make updates to the dugouts. I'm sorry, I was about to say bullpens. To the 2 dugouts on either side, cleaning those up, and then also providing an under drainage system and an irrigation system out on the site, which we currently do not have. We actually invest quite a few man-hours every summer in hauling very large hose reels and have those systems set up so that we can move the water around the site and keep the grass watered. So that would help us with reduction of the number of hours that we're spending on maintaining water wheels and things of that nature on the grounds. Similar improvements are planned for the softball area as well. Probably the most notable thing with softball is that we would remove the gravel fines that are out there on the infield, and we would put that as a clay infield, so a much better playing surface for our softball athletes. As you step now from the softball field to the south, so straight down, there is currently, that is the varsity softball field in its current position. We are proposing that that would be eliminated, that would be ripped out, and that the lower level baseball field would be constructed. As you can see in the baseball field diagram there, we've striped a couple of different layouts on there. The field use would give us not only the ability to have our baseball practice and games there, but also gives the ability to have different soccer fields, football fields, multiple uses and multiple wear patterns, which are important to us since this is still a grass area out there. So we're able to maintain it in a certain way that hopefully will get more longevity out of it. That is one of the areas where the Arboretum is currently. We are recommending that that land be reclaimed at this time. We understand that that was an area where trees were dedicated in the early 70s, and we are looking to basically redo the dedication throughout the site. We'd like to work with anybody that is willing to come forward and get involved with that project to look at what types of plaques those would be, where the dedication would be. We have some ideas ourselves of how this could flow through the site. There's many walking paths that are going to be generated as part of this plan, but we would like to see that redeveloped and re-memorialized to the community in an area that people could really enjoy it a little bit more than they can today, given the condition of that area. It's also important to note that that is an area that's not doing well at the moment. We have had to go in and remove trees as they have lived through their life. Some have been claimed by the ash borer. In some cases, they were just too densely planted, which can be a common mistake when a young sapling is planted and you overpopulate the area, but then 50 years later, it grows into other trees and causes other issues. So there are things going on out there that we really need to consider as well when it comes to the Arboretum. As we move back towards the east again on this plan, you will notice that what is currently the detention area is no longer. It's represented by a dashed blue line. It's a rectangle that's on the grounds there. We are proposing, again, because we're so tight on the field, on the grounds themselves, we're trying to reclaim as much usable space as possible. So we are proposing that detention area go underground, and that another synthetic field be placed there in its stead. Again, that's about playability. It gives us the ability to schedule multiple events back to back, so that regardless of what the weather conditions are, we're able to use that and not have kids basically playing on bare dirt. If you were to look at the grounds today, you'll see that there are very apparent wear patterns that are out on the grounds where our different athletic teams have basically worn straight through whatever grass we have, and it's bare dirt. We can't keep up with it. So that's why we feel that it's important that there be another surface there that could be used to give us additional playability. That surface would be a multi-use surface, so into the actual carpet itself would be stitched the layout for softball. That would be where the lower level softball competition field would be. You would also have a full football field markings on there. also have a full soccer field. And one of the things that is really nice about this particular soccer field is that in soccer they are more concerned about the width of the field than they are about the length of the field. So this particular setup actually gives the soccer athletes a true soccer field that they would want to play on and accommodate that need. There's also a viewing tower that is incorporated into this that would give things like your football coaches the ability to elevate themselves and see what's going on in a practice situation. Also would give, for example, our marching band, their directors would be able to climb up into that tower as well, direct traffic and conduct their practices on that space. Ironically, marching band can be as hard on a football field, grass field, as your football team can be. So, because they're repetitively marching in one particular place. So, again, that one of the needs for the synthetic surface there. As we move further to the east in front of the building, you'll also note that there are some improvements that have been called out on there. We did take time to look through the balance of the site. There are, because of modifications that we have made with access to the building, for example, our athletic entrance is no longer at the main street main entrance that you would use during a regular student attendance day. That has moved to the west to go down that main hall there and access the gym. So we've realized things such as we don't have adequate accessible parking there. So we would propose that we take some of the spaces that are in front of the building itself and move those down to further accommodate those patrons that are coming to visit those events. We also don't have a ADA access ramp that would be in that general vicinity. You'd have to go all the way back by the other main entrance and come back if you didn't want to try and jump that 4 or 6 inch curve that's there. So we would like to make improvements to actually recess that section of the walkway and make sure that there is access to the site. And then there's a couple of other windows that are in here just showing that we're looking to create other outdoor learning environments for the students, similar to what was done at Louise White about a year ago. We're creating environments outside so that on nice weather days they can get out of the building and make use of those. So we're looking for some of those opportunities as well on the site and try to represent that within the drawing. The plan moving forward is that we will post this again on the website seeking public comment, and we will bring this back to you later this summer, having collected whatever data we have at that time for public comment, and at that time ask for this to be the vision of the board, and ask that this plan be adopted at that time. But for now, just information and a long-range planning tool that we would like to have so that we can go after some of the improvements that need to take place on the site and know that we're not putting good money after bad by putting something in a place that it's only going to be ripped out at a later date.
One of the key components of this plan is that there is no timeline right now for completing any of this work. We do not have a schedule of work. We have not selected vendors. There is no timetable for which we construct this. But it gives us the pieces where, as operating funds become available, or if safety becomes an issue in any one aspect of this area, for instance, the baseball fields that we've been watching for years, we can do that part knowing it's not going to interfere with anything else we want to do. We'll have our master plan for the fields. And so these projects could also be phased where we can do one part 1 year and we may not get to anything else for 3 to 4 years later if funding is just not available to do that. So this can be phased in over many years as the board decides to allocate any funds that they deem appropriate.
For example, like the ADA accessibility towards the sports area there, that's something that probably should be readily addressed. And
that should go in your capital improvement plan. Would be a safety issue.
You know, that's the whole idea. It's a domino effect. Once you affect one thing, it may have an effect on another. But the fact that it can be phased in stages is something that's nice to consider. Because people look at the whole price tag. You've broken this down into, areas, figures that the complete cost breakdown of different areas, and it's nice to see that things could be phased in if they seem necessary. But again, it's strictly informational. And I had a coach contact me about a week ago from one of our opponents and asked me, is that turf field going to be ready for football season this year? I go,
Did you laugh?
yeah, I said, no.
What would be the plan if when this were to happen? Because it will take some
If
time.
we hit the lottery?
If we hit the lottery. Just asking, gotta know. Don't get nervous. What will happen to the teams? Because obviously they won't have use of the facilities.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
Is there like a plan? What's the transition?
The elements of this plan are, everything here can be constructed in phases. So at a minimum, we would be looking at 2 years of construction. And the reason being is we would shut down only certain areas at a time and leave it so that we can still operate, still have kids on the grounds while construction is going on. Scheduling obviously be a little bit more of an issue, but it is certainly something that would be constructed over a couple of different stages.
And just out of curiosity, how many sports, teams, organizations, the music are not on our field, have to go off campus?
I'm not sure that I'm ready to say all those numbers. I can tell you that I know that our marching band does not do anything on the site. Our soccer athletes, both fall and spring, all go to HC Storm or other sites. They do not practice on the site. They do have competitions on the site. Those are the two at the top of my head.
Well,
We have no plans to golf.
Really? So there's a number of students.
And we're talking really here, varsity, so some of our B teams and other,
Right.
the list gets much longer when you start looking at the next level.
Well, I'm curious. I'm curious. But so there's several students who do not have use of our facilities.
There are quite a few athletes that do not, athletes and musicians that do not get an opportunity on the grounds.
On their field. Okay. And that number is just going to grow.
And Pat and Chris have heard me say before, I don't like the term master plan. I really like the idea that this is your planning guide.
Right.
We've gone through this many times. And until the board endorses a planning guide, I don't think you can ask the next questions about timelines. From there, all of this would then get filtered through your capital development plan, and it would get prioritized based on those systems, health, life safety, and needs that you would have with all of your other projects. But it's hard to invest in something. And at the finance committee meeting, I told the story this morning that when we first put out the first portables at the high school, I made a comment to the architect, please put them someplace that we won't pick them up and have to move them in a year. And sure enough, 9 months after we put them out, we had to move them from the Wilson Street side of the high school. We had to add a lot more of them to the front of the high school, but we certainly had to do that. We want to avoid this, and that's where the board's due diligence of long-term planning will help in making sure that we don't spend funds twice.
Right.
They're hard to come by, and we're trying to be prudent with it. So this planning guide gives everybody an idea of where programs are at. And I think also helps the district direct outside funding sources. That if you have a plan and can do some part of this, with outside funding, will help direct that.
Well, that was, so if none of this occurs, what do our facilities look like? I mean, there's still going to have to be a significant amount of money spent on just repairing them, correct? Or just what you said. So if none of this ever happens.
We have more difficult conversations about things like what do we do when life safety issues come up? Do we start to expend the funds to take care of those, not knowing what the future of the site holds?
And we don't have any numbers for that. We don't have, that isn't.
Some of that is already incorporated in the capital development plan. So there are some numbers that exist in there.
I think baseball is in.
Baseball's in there, the grandstands are in there. So there are elements that are within the plan.
Okay. So we can see both sides. Okay.
So basically, you're asking us to just approve this plan, this vision, so that if something needs to be done with the baseball field, then we can say, yes, go ahead and construct or whatever you need to do it for, if it's life safety or something else, because we know that at least that baseball field is not going to be changed. We're not saying that next year we're going to spend all this money to do all this because we just approved the vision. It's just that, so we have a point. I just want to make sure it's clear out there, because it just seems like before I was even sitting on this board and listening, and all of a sudden it's like we're spending all this money for something that's, you're not going through all the steps yet. And I just want to make sure that that's clear out there, that it's just a vision and that it doesn't mean that it's all going to take place. I mean, granted, I'd like to have somebody come in and write a check for $15 million and say, let's go for it, but that's not going to happen.
Exactly. Short of winning the
So I
lottery.
just want to make sure that I understand and everybody else understands that it's just that in case.
If the board approves this as the
I'm missing
plan.
something, and I think we're all set, but I just want to make sure. Right.
Somebody spoke today and put it in very local terms at the Finance Committee that everybody has a vision for their home. Whether it's going, it was, that's always I couldn't remember to give.
I'm always looking at, well, my wife's always looking for more stuff, so I gotta plan money.
Is it the kitchen, is it the bathroom, is it the backyard, is it the porch?
And that's what I want to make sure it gets out there, that that's what this is.
But either way, just like our homes, repairs are going to have to be made.
Yes.
Right. And we need to decide, right,
This is essentially
how
a
we want to
tool
handle that.
that we now will know that this is how we would proceed as elements come up. Just as we do every January, the capital improvement plan will be presented to the board, and recommendations will be made of what should happen based upon priority. So it's a more comprehensive look, as this is folded into that, of what are all the district needs, what fulfill the needs of all the different buildings to make sure that we have learning environments that are suitable for our students, and also facilities for the extracurriculars. So all those pieces played into it, considering health, life, safety issues that may come up, you name it. And just like we did with this past round, there'll be a list saying these are the top whatever recommendations based upon the funding that are available. And then we can start to check off some of these as funds are available. So,
as I stated earlier, that domino effect, by touching one area, say something happens to the bleachers and they need, something damages them and they need repair. Well, they're not ADA accessible.
Right.
So if we start messing with those, there's a point at which we have to make that turn and make them accessible. So then you look at, is it worth doing them completely or trying to modify them? And sometimes modifying something is much more costly than revamping. So that's a domino effect that we have to, without a vision, you're going to just knock down those around randomly on a board, and this at least gives an idea, gives even the community an idea. It freaks them out a little bit, but yet the idea that, I think that's a great statement in your house. You have a vision, but it's broken down that we can easily look at what's doable and how we can maybe plan for a few of these things here and there, and whatever.
Pat, just so that Tina had mentioned, the kids that go off campus for sports, do they walk there or do they bus there? I mean, I'm not sure how far the furthest place they go for practice is.
we do not provide transportation for them to get there.
Okay.
Some of the athletes are able to drive, so they will make the drive over. Some will jog over there. It's not terribly far. It's from the high school to HC Storm. So
that's the furthest that they have to go for a practice?
Marching band has gone around the district. They've rotated elementary schools.
But they've never been, they've not always been there, so they
not to my knowledge.
I thought soccer used Rotolo.
They may have, but I may not have been brought into that conversation.
Steve is shaking his head.
Yeah, occasionally, not.
But that can be a distance from our west side to east side, so.
I'm probably asking too many questions for my first meeting, but I have two questions. You said that you've met with other groups like BYFL to talk about this plan. Have they indicated any willingness to help fundraise for that?
Actually, I was going to say, can I jump in, Melanie? Pat, can you revisit the process that you've already gone through with our other stakeholders and with the public? Because there has been a lengthy process, and not everyone here would be aware of your presentation at Rotary, your presentation at board meetings and all of that. So can you give us a quick review of that?
Sure. As you said, I mean, this was a joint effort with our partners. So the boosters, the Buffs, BYF was involved. We made it very open that anybody from the public could come in. Our coaches got involved. Our student athletes got involved. Anybody had an opportunity to come in, weigh in, and comment on the plans. We started this process probably about 18 months ago of actually having an initial meeting with stakeholders in the community just so that we could gather enough information to be able to hire an architect. And based upon that information, then hired the architect and then had facilitated meetings with these groups so that there were multiple versions of the plan that were presented. We took comments on each of them, likes, dislikes, things of that nature, then kept narrowing that down. So we had one meeting where we had 4 drawings and drastically different site plans involved. Then we were able to narrow it down to 2 drawings that we took the comments and kind of moved the pieces around a little bit. And then based upon comments from that meeting with the 2 drawings, we were able to get down to this final drawing that we presented, asked for any final comments. Is this okay? Is this the vision and the desires that everybody that was involved, all those partners wanted to see happen? And eventually that resulted in this plan. So there has been quite a bit of consideration given to, I don't want to venture, there's quite a few people involved in the process of getting to this point and developing this plan. And then we have brought this out to various groups in the community and shown them the plan and given them the opportunity to weigh in and give us comment of, what are your thoughts, and here's some of the reasons why we are looking to do what we're doing right now. So.
And financially, our partners helped fund this plan, correct?
They did, yes. Collectively, of approximately a $35,000 endeavor to work with the architect on this, over $20,000 of that money was paid for by these organizations to help offset the costs.
And some of our partners have already approached you about when this will be passed so they can start fundraising for.
We have multiple things going on. We have partners that are looking right now to fundraise. Some may already be actively fundraising for this plan. We also have donors that we are looking to engage and talk to that would like to help probably pay for the entire portions of this plan already that are already in place. So yes, there's interest out there, and there are people that are looking to help move this plan along once the plan has been adopted. So.
I just have one more question.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I think it's beautiful. I like it. The synthetic fields, I know the pros and cons. I just want to know that we've also considered the safety of the athletes on the synthetic field with all the issues out there with head injuries and whatnot. Are they safer falling to the ground on grass, or are we confident that we're not going to have a rash of torn ACLs and MCLs and concussions on a synthetic field where the underneath part is essentially, if I'm not correct, is concrete?
No, it's a carpet that's basically over a stone product, and you would never be able to tell that it was actually stone that's underneath there. I think that the conditions that are present in a synthetic surface are much more consistent. You don't have kind of the pits and things that happen as water rushes over the site and can cause, on a regular basis we have to, not just the regular maintenance of things where we have to aerate, where you take plugs out of the ground, but we have to roll the ground itself because the earth kind of displaces itself. It's much less prone to have that happen when you have a synthetic surface like this. So I think that alone causes the surface to be much more consistent so that you don't have those types of things where you're stepping and anticipating that the ground is going to be in a certain spot, but it's just a little bit more off to the side than you would expect. They're micro differences, but they are just enough that could cause certain types of injuries. So I think that the synthetic would be better on our athletes.
Will this plan allow for maybe the potential expansion of other club sports or school-sponsored sports like field hockey or lacrosse, or expanding the rugby program or anything like that as well?
We've anticipated that. So in some of the planning conversations we've made sure that we had the ability to put like little dashes and marks into the field itself, into the carpet stitching itself, so that programs could essentially go on there. They make a paint product, I've learned, that basically washes off in 3 or 4 days, so that we can actually go through and stripe for events. We don't have to have a plethora of different field markings on there that make it confusing to watch the game. We can mark and make adjustments as we need to for different types of uses. And the fact that we can get on this surface and not worry about needing to rust the grass after an event will allow us to consider that in the future.
Pat, just curious, what are our neighbors doing? Do they have a similar problem that we do? Are they having to send kids off campus? Are their facilities equipped to handle their student athletes?
Both of our neighbors, West Aurora and Geneva, have synthetic surfaces already. So
most, as far as you know, most of their school activities are happening on campus.
That's correct.
And you mentioned at finance, but I can't remember if you mentioned it tonight, that you are going to repost this, but there will be a place for public comment that you will be collecting and sharing. Did we do public comment on the website previously? Was that something
we did,
before?
yes.
Okay. I know you've gotten lots of public comment, but I can't remember if that was available. And you're going to make that available for all of us.
I will give the board a report then of what the comments were and some dissemination of what the data was showing us.
I really appreciate the fact that you revisited this, because as was apparent when you guys campaigned, there was a lot of confusion about what this really was and what our intent with it was. I don't know that revisiting it will actually solve that, but at least we have now our new board members with a good understanding.
Or bring it up again.
And the fact that you're willing to recollect public comment even though you've done it, I appreciate the fact that you're revisiting all of that so that this board can comfortably accept or reject the vision of what we want to do.
I have one quick question. This is kind of getting into the details, but you mentioned that currently we have 1,800 seating at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Is that with the bleacher rental that we bring in?
I believe that is the pure capacity of the just the structure. No, that's without the rentals. That's just the home side grandstand itself is 1,800. We bring in additional seating outside of that. I honestly couldn't tell you what. It's 2 different units, but I don't know what the total count is off the top of my head.
I'm just wondering how much more additional seating are we getting?
700.
Yeah, I'd have to.
Because we don't always have those extra bleachers at every game, correct? It's just those first few that are really busy, and then
we look for the larger events at the moment, and.
Any other questions? Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
And Dr. Hitchens, could you please present the intergovernmental agreement between the Batavia Park District and the Batavia School District?
Sure. This is our last report of the evening, and it is for discussion. There will be no action, and for some of the people in the room, it's their last report of the district. So I just wanted to take a few minutes. I see some of the smiles getting bigger. I just want to take a few minutes to update you on the status of our intergovernmental agreement with the Park District. I've been fortunate during my entry plan over the last few months to meet with many of our community groups and other stakeholder groups, and I've met with Allison, the executive director from the Park District, a few times, and the subject of the intergovernmental agreement has come up. So I wanted to give you a little history. I pulled up the front page up on the screen here. The original intergovernmental agreement was written in 2002, and both boards approved that agreement. And on the first page, it really talks about the purpose for having the agreement and what we believe in, and we believe that you can read that document, you have read it over, that it's in the best interest of the community to have facilities that are shared by both the Park District and the school district. When one entity is not using their facilities, that the other group can come in and use the space if it's not being utilized by the host government. And so that agreement was written, and the purpose of this agreement, the first page really talks about the belief that we do want the facilities to be used by each other. And the rest of the document governs how the partnership works and how the facilities are used and how we communicate about programs with each other and the logistics. And so I've met twice, like I said, with the executive director to come up with a plan to revisit this document. It is out of date, and specifically the cost sharing language in the contract has come up. And there was some discussions already in 2011 to review that, and so we wanted to make sure that that was updated in the contract as well. And so for some of the reasons why we need to update this, like I said, it's 2002, so the time has come to revisit it. There's 4 attachments to this contract that aren't really, just to tidy it up a little bit, they're not all the same thing. So one of them is, you'll see the mowing specs, and Pat Brown will be reviewing those, making a couple minor suggested changes to those, so that the mowing specs were referred to in the original agreement. And then in 2007, there's a resolution reaffirming a commitment to the intergovernmental agreement that was just signed by the school district. And so that one was called a resolution. And then in 2011, there was something simply called addendum. And that was a process for sharing the summer camps. So we would host those at our facilities, and the Park District agreed to take on some of the administrative registration and collecting of fees for those camps, and so they oversee those camps. And then in 2012, there's something called First Amendment to the original document. So we would like to tidy up a little bit of that language, specifically 2007. That was just a resolution that wasn't signed by both parties, so it might not belong here at this time. It was specifically with the building additions at the high school and throughout the district. The referendum addressed that. 2011, we could just retitle that, but not really make any significant changes to those 2 addendums, but maybe just have a way of noting that there's these ones that we will honor, and then any other ones that might be out there somewhere, that they would be void. Because I mentioned that there wasn't an electronic copy of this that either party had, neither the Park District nor the school district, so Kathy Scavidi has typed the whole thing so that we could have a document that when we do make suggested changes, we can track those changes and see specifically what the changes are. There's some other things that are outdated. For example, there's a section called calendar. And so at the time, I think the Park District and the school district exchanged calendars, and that's how they rented the facilities from each other. We would give them a calendar and say, here's some openings that we would have, and there would be paper calendars. We don't, that's not our practice right now. That's not how we schedule. We use School Dude and ask the Park District to go into School Dude and request spaces. So we would like to have a task force that goes forward and clarifies to make sure both parties understand how we would go about renting these spaces to make it as easy as possible for the 2 governments to work together. There's a section on conflicts, and it doesn't match what's in our policy. So the section in the contract really doesn't reflect what's written in our policy, so we would need to revisit that. There's a section called keys that would need some updating because it's not just keys anymore. There's the prox cards that when the Park District uses our facilities, they get prox cards as well. Probably the biggest discussion that we'll need to have would be about the fee section. There's a section called fees. So at the time that the agreement was written, it would agree that there would be no fees charged by either entity, and that the use would be, we would share the use on an equitable exchange basis, I believe is the way that the language is written, that the costs incurred by one party would be offset by in-kind services. So back in 2002 when we wrote this, we'll let you use our classrooms when we're not using them, or our spaces, and in return they would mow some of our fields with some of their equipment that would be very cost effective, so we didn't have to purchase that same equipment. And at one point, I know we used their facility for our gymnastics team to practice. They don't do that anymore, but that was also at one point an in-kind service where they didn't charge us for our gymnastics team going there. And so just to bring us up to speed for the last few years, we have some additions. We have the Fine Arts Center, we have the field house, and we have new classrooms and more programs being used, which is fantastic. So the Park District is really using the school district facilities, and we're very glad that we're able to do that. And in 2011, I know that the representatives from the Park District and the school district sat down and said, okay, we're not quite balanced anymore, so let's revisit that. So in 2011, there was an agreement that the Park District, in order to recoup some of we incur costs when the Park District is in our building. We have to have the utilities turned on at times that we wouldn't normally. We actually have some personnel costs that, for example, if there's a Park District event on a weekend or on a day that we don't have school, and if there's snow, we have to pay our crew time and a half to come in and remove the snow. Those are a couple examples of costs that we incur, real costs for the programs that they're running in the buildings. So when they sat down in 2011, they agreed that $75,000 would be an appropriate sharing of the costs for those programs to be housed in our buildings. And certainly not at all trying to make a profit at all, just trying to share the costs. So we do incur costs, we're trying to share those. So that was the agreement in 2011, and the Park District did make 3 installments during that the 11-12 school year that they paid for some of the facilities, some of the costs. They helped share in those costs. It's time to revisit that number. So that was the beginnings of some of the talks that we had. We can now calculate specifically the hourly rate for utilities, so we know what it costs to turn on lights in the field house and condition that space, for example, or a classroom. So at this point, really, I just wanted to hear your feedback about this process and ask you a few questions. I just wanted to make sure when you look at that front page of the intergovernmental agreement, is this still something, this was the board in 2012, this was their direction to administration, and they said, yeah, go 2002. Okay. 2002. Please work with the Park District. Let's use each other's facilities. Everybody will benefit when these facilities are used as much as possible by the community. So that would be my first question. Are we still, basically the first page of this document, that would be my question to you. Are we still in an agreement that is your philosophy as well?
And that's actually a question she's hoping for an answer for.
I think it's a good thing. I don't want to burn any bridges. I want to make sure, though, that if it is being used both ways, and if the costs are going to get higher for us, then we have to, somehow offset it, like you've said. So for me, I say let's continue on with the discussions, the talks, let's see if we can work something out, and go from there. I guess my one question is, and I probably think it's probably already been done, is that you would have an idea yearly what the costs have been with the Park District compared to us, so.
Can I jump in for a minute,
Go ahead.
John? Can we just talk about the philosophical aspect
Okay.
first, since that's page 1? Just,
Okay.
Are we interested philosophically in continuing this relationship?
I am.
I think there's something that we're missing here that you didn't bring up, that they failed to make the payments the next year, right?
So, yeah, that agreement was never anything in writing. It was for
Right.
that year. So it's time to revisit that and say, okay, let's
So
talk
they
about it
paid
for
one
this
year, they didn't pay the next year.
Right, this would have been the second
So-
year. And really, there wasn't anything in writing for us to go back on and say, here's, according to the agreement. So they've made it known that they're going to stick to that agreement. And so it's not, it's time to revisit it. So they made that payment when we asked them to. They were responsible and did that. And at this point, there's no agreement out there that.
And we asked them to make a payment?
For this year, they made it clear that they weren't going to, that they were going to honor this agreement that said there would be no payment. because that's the one that's in writing.
I would agree that it fosters goodwill with the community, especially for people who don't have people at the high school yet, to get the opportunity to use the facilities that their tax dollars pay for. I, for one, don't have a high schooler, but I've been in the field house more times, more hours than I can count, watching third graders try to play basketball. And I understand the need for the field house when I get to use it like that as somebody who doesn't have a high schooler, but I also know that the park district needs to respect that space and take care of that space because they did not pay for it. So not only do they need to understand that that the school district has more facilities than they do, and they kind of need these facilities to run some of their programs, but they also need to respect the rules that the facility sets forth. And I think there needs to be stronger language in that, or some kind of repercussion if they are letting people drink coffee on the field house. I know there's a lot of signs, but they won't always enforce those rules maybe. So I think that they need to understand that, and there needs to be some kind of repercussion if they don't follow the rules.
Right, we would like that to be included as well, so more consistency in some of the spaces where, like the field house, where the rules are a little bit more stringent, and where you can't have certain shoes on in the field house because of the surface, and absolutely no food or drink, and just to make sure there's more consistency, that would be an interest that we would have.
I got stronger worded letters about where I park at Rotolo for football than I did about how I treat the field house. So I could do a little more on their part, I think.
So Lisa, Dr. Hitchens, what is the feeling you're getting from the park district? That they don't want to change the agreement? That they,
you?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, so what are your thoughts from what you're hearing from them?
That they would be they would listen to what we would propose, so that would be the next step. If you said, yeah, go ahead and continue the discussions, and we are interested in, maintaining this partnership and having our spaces utilized, then we would present to them, well, here's an update some updates that we would like to see to the intergovernmental agreement, and the director would bring that to her board for discussion.
So in this updated intergovernmental agreement can be included some of the concerns with the use of the facility, the upkeep of the facility, the respect of the facility. Okay.
And that's the feedback I'm looking for.
Right.
And we've already had the discussions on the administrative side as far as, what we believe would be some things that we would like to update. And so we would present those along with your ideas and I am hearing the consistency or the, respect of the spaces, and I know we haven't really talked about the fee yet,
but there's a cost. I mean, I remember Pat gave numbers one time as to what it was to just run the air condition in the high school on the weekend. So all of that is being taken into consideration when drawing up this agreement, and the park district board is aware of the cost that the school district has, knowing that not every student in Batavia who attends Batavia schools is really a member of the park district, but yet they're still, there's that boundary issue where
they're charging us more.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I know that's my point to them is that the facilities are being used, but not every student.
Not every park district.
Not every student is a park district boundary. Right, but yet.
So not every student is benefiting from their programs.
Right.
No. Because they're not.
Because of the bound.
Right. So we're footing the bill. Our our taxpayer families are footing the bill.
But our
then we have
students
students that have to pay more just to use the same facilities just because they happen to live in the wrong part of Batavia.
Which I just want to point out a difference. We reached an agreement 6 or 7 years ago with any student from the Batavia Public Schools goes to the Batavia Library, they receive in-district service.
Yes,
rates.
just to the library. Right.
That was an agreement we reached with the library because there were resources there.
So that's potentially an option, that any Batavia public school student could receive in-district in Park District services at their rates.
It was a need at the time, and our teachers talked about resources that they would work with the library and things that, and they've respected that.
Right.
Well, in answer to your first question, philosophically, yes, I would like to keep the agreement.
Yeah, me too.
I will hold my comment regarding the fees when you ask that question.
Okay.
I would say yes again, but, and then just update it to the present time with all the new facilities and everything else like that. So, because, it goes back 11
Right.
years ago. So, I mean,
Right.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, do I have permission to go continue these discussions with the Park District based on your feedback and make these updates? So we're agreeing that we want to have this partnership, we really value it. Do we agree that we need to update this document?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So then now, let's talk about fee structure. So as part of our discussion, I did ask them to calculate what they thought their in-kind services might be for the year, so we would have a starting point. So I'm learning all of this. I was involved at some level at the high school because we had the programs in our building, but I wasn't involved in the level of detail, so I'm trying to collect as much information as I can. And so the Park District provided an estimate of what they thought they provided to us, and I asked them to price out what that might look like. They provided us with their information, which included a Batavia Youth basketball donation and a BYF donation as well. We did rent their Shannon Hall for a high school performance, which is a great facility for that performance. Some tours of the Depot Museum. And you could see the mowing is a significant charge that they,
Did we
so
have them
all
this
in
is
about
their proposal
40,000.
right here?
That would be what I asked, just for my own purposes, since I'm trying to learn. What types of in-kind services have you provided to us, so I can get an estimate, and so you can be able to judge if it really still is we're just going to trade each other services and not, you're not going to help us with the cost, you're just going to give us in-kind services. So I asked them, what are your in-kind services? And that was just a draft of what they were able to come up with for the services they provided for us this year, under $40,000.
But they have,
So they charge us,
They don't charge us anything, so
no,
money's
they're
changing hands.
allocating. They're
No
saying
money's
that
changing hands at all.
they don't mow all of our schools though, right?
No.
Okay, so they're saying for the schools they mow, it costs us a whole bunch of money per hour.
15, almost 20.
18,000.
Right, but look at the hourly rate.
Sorry.
Right.
Almost $70 an hour, they're saying is the value of their mowing service. How much do we pay our summer help?
really, not $70.
Don't the 8th graders pay for the quarry?
Yeah, that was the other clarification.
Well, the other thing, oh yes, the 8th graders do pay for the quarry day. They pay to attend that.
And do they pay the full amount?
Don't they?
They pay
$4?
$2 a student.
Well, that's what they
Oh,
have
so they
here.
pay the way back Batavia rate that they charge on Wednesdays or whatever?
No, they have $4 here. But, okay, so these donations, are they guaranteed, just out of curiosity, are they guaranteeing those donations yearly?
No, I think that
was a
that would,
one-time.
I
That's what
asked
they have
for this
done.
year, give me
Okay.
an estimate just so I can learn. So this document was just this year, there was no promise of anything else.
Okay, well, it's incredibly imbalanced. And not that it's not meant for anything other than we are under a ton of pressure to manage our finances appropriately. So when I see this, I go, oh my gosh, how many teachers would that be?
So, yeah, there were about 16, just under 1,600 rentals from the Park District of our facilities.
And can you clarify, although I think I know, we don't share in any revenues from any programs that they run, correct?
No, if they charge a fee, there is if you read the agreement of the summer camps, that's the one, that's the one-time BFAC as well. They do invoice everyone that uses that facility. So we would put something in this contract that excludes BFAC. They need to honor their rental rates.
Okay.
And also, just curious, the 3rd grade tours, is the parents at the schools are paying field trip costs. Is that not going towards
That's
this?
just transportation, isn't it?
Not much.
I don't know. I mean, I know some of it's busing, but I think some of it's also to get into, to use the facility. It's not only busing.
Yeah, so I think the purpose would be to show that I think that when I asked for that data, it does look like we're not as balanced as maybe we once were in 2002. So if they're using, even if we just charged them the category 4 rental rate, which we didn't, but if we did, hypothetically, that would be over $300,000 in funds to the district.
Is that this number here?
Yes.
18 hours?
So this would be our minimum school-affiliated groups. This is what we would actually charge some of those groups. We're saying, no, that's not, we're not charging you. But if you were, this is what our cost.
If no agreement existed between the school district and the park district, and we said, hey, we'll put you as category 4, that would have been the fee.
And can you clarify, if I remember correctly, when we did the category 4, Pat, that was a number that you would come up with that just covers our costs, because our intent was not to profit off of any of our associated groups.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is just, we're saying cost of heating, electric, janitorial, all of that. Okay.
So this is the cost that you're estimating, or that we, the school district occurs with the park district using our facility, and this is what they're saying.
There was no long-term capital improvement, but there was long-term maintenance in that fee.
Regular maintenance, yes.
Yeah, maintenance.
And the original agreement was $75,000.
The one in 2011, when they
Which
looked
they
at
paid
this,
once.
they all sat around the table, looked at it, and said, all right, maybe $75,000 would be a good estimate for the park district to help offset some of those costs.
Did they share with you the reasons why they did not pay those costs again?
They said it wasn't in writing, so fresh administration wasn't around sitting at the table when that agreement was made. And then what they have to go on is the written agreement, so they said that any invoices submitted, they consulted with their counsel and said that they wouldn't need to pay that because it wasn't part of a written agreement.
So I know our intent is not to collect $300,000 from the park district. Do you have a number that you were?
Or even half. Wouldn't that be half of the in-kind services then essentially come out to $152,000?
So if we did a half of like.
Of the 300.
If we did a benchmark and said every year, that would be one option to say half of the category 4 rental rate would be about $150,000.
And the downside is if they say absolutely not, we are not willing to share in any of the costs associated with running these programs, ultimately that could mean that we dissolve the agreement.
We could either continue to absorb the cost that it's for running the program, or there is something in the contract that says, I think it's a 90-day notice that we could dissolve it and start fresh. You know, I don't think we would ever want to dissolve that, but we could say it's an outdated contract, it's time to renew it, and just to put some,
but if we don't,
timeliness on it to say let's move forward.
If this is something they don't agree upon, I mean, take the sports out of it. I mean, Kids Club. There's so many students that utilize that. And what about the kindergarten program?
That was the 2012 enrichment addendum. One of the addendums is covered in 2000. That's not included on this. That's not included on that because it's during the school day.
Right. So if they don't, if some type of agreement is not come to, those are some things that are in jeopardy that we have to decide.
Yeah.
Okay. Or they have
I'm
to find
confident that we're going to
another
work this out.
Or we would have
Or
to
they have to
create
find
a
another
different
facility.
intergovernmental agreement that takes facility usage out but still covers a kindergarten enrichment. But yes, it's all part of one agreement
Right.
that we have with the park district with different wheels coming off, different spokes.
Besides the enrichment part with the kids in, for sports only part, are all the schools used from the park, from park district?
Besides enrichment?
Yes. I mean, is every grade school used for some form of on the inside or?
It varies greatly.
Okay.
And it has changed as the field houses become more available.
Okay.
Some of the gyms are less desirable because of the absence of a wood floor.
Okay.
But we still heavily use Rotolo, we still heavily use the high school. Louise White has a wood floor. It's still heavily used. So those gym areas, particularly those buildings I'm aware of, are used quite a bit.
Okay.
Would there be an ability to kind of core out the enrichment programs in Kid Club to make that like a separate agreement, since that benefits our students during the school day, and then use essentially the extracurricular sports and
But I have
other
difficulty with the
activities?
kids club, although it does benefit our students. I mean, we could throw that open. I mean, there's a competing program at Gustafson that is an opportunity, and the Park District is charging comparable rates to a private industry, so why would we necessarily favor them if they're completely unwilling?
Sure.
Because
And that affects the
the
ability to use the
Gustafson
school,
program
too.
actually pays us.
I mean, if you're housing Kids Club at your school, because they have that agreement, if your school is to have a function, the students, they have to work around Kids Club.
Right.
So,
which again is a partnership. Philosophically, that's great, but if we're incurring all of the costs and jumping through hoops to accommodate it, I think there are other avenues, so I would never want to say, but at the same time, we're willing to come to the table, but they have to meet us at the table during this process.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems like, they said, go ahead and give us your ideas. And we set a tentative deadline, not a deadline, but we thought we would go back and revisit it at the end of June, which is this week. And so I would bring your ideas to them and say, here's what the direction I received from the board. So far what I'm hearing is definitely wanting to make this partnership work, but but it's important to you to share the costs that we incur for the programs. Yes.
Two parts. Who's in the conversation? Is it you and someone else?
Yes.
Or is there a group?
No, it's
Okay.
just the executive director.
And then how do you personally feel the talks are going? I mean, from what you've been in so far?
She's very open to moving forward and looking at something different, so she's not saying that she's not.
She hasn't put up a wall yet.
No, not at all. No, but she's going with what's in writing, and
Right,
I mean, I'd like them too.
and I can agree with that.
Yeah.
If it's not in writing, it's kind of hard to go against that. I mean, especially if you have new people on board or something, just prior to us too. I mean, if it's something, so, okay,
Well, in response to your third question, since, both taxpayers' tax dollars are, support both the entities, the school district and the park district, and some may say you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but and I think there's a difference in this, that they collect additional dollars through user fees, and that's always been a philosophical debate probably in any public entity about subsidizing some events and collecting user fees to those that do pay-to-play kind of concept or whatever. But that also then puts people in different categories that maybe can't afford it, not able to play. So that's a tough thing to balance, I think, philosophically too. So with their ability to collect fees, they do have the ability to offset some of these costs. Hopefully not to the point where, hopefully everyone can still continue to participate. And run is going to be passed back on to taxpayers, I mean the people at home. But at least it's their choice whether or not to participate. So I kind of lean towards, going back to the table, saying, we're going to have to revisit this and see if we can recoup some costs here, because in this, I've not always been a big advocate of pay to play, but yet in this there may be some. Again, however we divide that up and work with that, that's something to be debated, but pardon me?
I said, that's not the balcony anymore.
No, let's stay up on the balcony.
Parents pay those camp fees this summer.
I would suggest some kind of proposal as to, I mean, I kind of have the conflict of what's good for the students, and then there are programs that, are more adult enrichment. Whereas, there has to be maybe a separation of what's more extracurricular versus what's more educational focused, so maybe some of the adult programs could be cored out. If there's like a classification or something like that they can come up with where, maybe some of their adult programs can fall in better with our usage times that maybe don't hit during like, peak energy usage or whatnot. So maybe there's a better way to categorize their programs to have them see that, we need to recover certain costs, like, from kids club and enrichment versus adult volleyball or pottery class, so.
So having different classifications within the park district and maybe some of them having a fee structure to help recover some of the costs?
Yeah, however that would come up, maybe, I don't think, like their mowing recovery for us doesn't really directly correlate to our usage of our volleyball facilities, so maybe there could be some sliding scale of understanding, where some areas may need lower maintenance or lower overhead costs versus others, like, some of the youth sports programs that need more maintenance on the grounds and such. There can be that leaning more towards that 50%, maybe it can be a lower percentage of recovery on costs for other indoor activities or whatnot. Getting closer to the middle, I think, is what we're really trying to get here, because again, we're not trying to profit off of it.
Don't expect to recoup everything.
Right.
But we can't foot everything either.
Exactly.
The one thing that looks like it would really be hurt if this didn't is the youth basketball programs. Seem like they're the biggest user.
Did we ever run any of these programs ourselves? I don't even know if I'm asking the right.
In reading,
Who are you asking?
I don't have the history, but actually in reading some of the older documents, yes, you
can find
did.
it at the
You
library.
had an activity director someplace back in, I want to say the 80s.
That's George.
80s, yeah.
So I guess my question,
That's the thing, though. This last couple of weeks, there was an activity director.
again, our intent is not to not continue, but I also want us to recognize that there may be other options if for some reason we don't have a partnership.
And they might have other options as well. I think they did look into different local facilities that weren't related to the school district, that they might have a plan B as well.
Because we'll pay them instead of us.
Yeah.
It's closer.
It's really not it's not up to us to decide what programs the park district decides to have.
Right.
It's just our decisions right here is to decide, are they going to partner with us in regards to the finances of using our facilities? What they choose to put in our facilities, that really isn't that's their choice. Yep. So,
Any other comments for Dr. Hitchens on this subject? See what they say. Good luck. I want to take just a moment before we move into everyone else's comments to take advantage of my role as president and getting to speak first. I don't know how many of you are aware, we have a number of people who this will be their last day. One of them is not here tonight. Cindy Sikorsky is retiring after, I don't even know how many years in the district. 19 years in the district, so good luck, Cindy. But we also have Ron O'Connor here tonight, who is, we are very sad to say, but excited for him, moving to a business manager's position in
Summit Hill.
Thank you. We are going to be very sad to see you go. You have been a very good and cooperative friend to the board, and recent newspaper articles notwithstanding, you have done an incredible job of really managing our pay card program. I know you have gone and presented to other groups. We have been held up as actually a standard to follow to other districts.
And I'll be presenting in October in Boston on P cards too.
So I appreciate how willing you have been to work with us and educate us and really be a good steward of our district's finances. So I really appreciate that, and you will be missed, and you will have big shoes to be filled. So thank you. And then we also will be losing Mr. Romanek tonight. He got the little hockey gift from the gods last night, where the night before his last day, they clinched the Stanley Cup. So I got the joy of watching him kind of walk around on a cloud today. And Greg, I told you many times, you have always been the person I wanted to grow up to be. You have been such an inspiration, such a person to turn to, that there aren't even words to describe, and if I talk anymore, I might cry. So thank you for all of your years of service. And this is also Jack's last meeting and last day because he's going on vacation. And Jack, you are a big part of the reason why I ran for the board in the first place. Your leadership and your, just what you've done for this district, I think through many of us here, and you have been such a pleasure to work with. And I have learned so much from you in such a short amount of time. And I always laugh because I said I have father issues, because every time Jack's mad, I'm like, oh no, what did I do now? So I don't think Lisa and I will have that same kind of relationship. But I just want to say thank you for everything you have done for us. So that was just my moment to usurp and say goodbye to everyone before I cry. So I'd like to invite our student ambassadors to come up and address the board. And do we need to change the tape before we? Are you good? Oh, 43 minutes. Jack said 4 minutes.
Sorry.
Apparently we have plenty of time to talk about it.
Less Dave, less hearing.
Yeah.
He's already on vacation.
Yeah, right.
You just want to speed up.
All right, so good evening. I'll start with the business first. So for the students' AP scores, they're going paperless, so online July 8th. I know everyone's really anxious about that.
So I'm sorry, Megan, they'll publish them online?
They'll publish them online through the College Board website. So log in, get an account, be ready for 12:01 a.m., the usual. Congratulations and good luck to the graduated seniors, college, work, military, wherever you're going. Speaking of graduated seniors, there was the graduation meeting today, the focus group. And so there was feedback from that, and there'll be more options for feedback tomorrow when there's an email sent out. So that's going to be fun. And then congratulations to Jake. I'm looking forward to having a new partner in crime. Good luck to Dr. Barshinger and Mr. Connor, Mr. Romanek. Congratulations, Mrs. Pistos. How do you pronounce it?
Pistato.
Pistato, okay, sorry. Congratulations to Dr. Hitchens and Mrs. Smith. So lots of congratulations.
And my note for the day is that summer sports camps are on full go. Basketball, football, wrestling, lacrosse are all in full swing at the high school. And the best part about them, especially as an athlete, is that they're all planned at different parts of the day. So although it's tiring, you don't have to sacrifice any sport for another, and that's a huge thing. So I'm able to get in football in the morning, lacrosse in the afternoons, and then
it's a dream.
Wrestling. Right. I mean, there you go. So that really great planning on that part, and it's very good for the athletes. And I also wanted to say that we have the youth football camp coming up in 2 weeks, which the older guys in the football program help out with. It's one of my favorite camps. He gets to work with little kids, and they look up to all the older guys, and it's a good program for our young and up-and-coming football players.
Cool.
This is mine. Big t-shirt.
We good?
Oh yeah.
We're good. I'm not used to having to walk up and down.
I know. We just wanted to see if you guys can adapt.
I would have liked them being
You do or you don't?
I like they're up here.
Oh, talking to us directly?
No, when they used to sit up.
Oh, you want them
their nameplate.
Maybe they just need to sit in the front row so we can see them.
And they got their own. I kind of like that. They deserve it. That's what they're here for. That's my opinion.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. Do I have any board members that would like to make comments tonight? I know in the past we just sort of put you on the spot. So
I'll go.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome Melanie as the newest board member to serve the citizens and students of Batavia 101. I'd like to also welcome Jake as the new student ambassador. Please share and give us the input of the students' view attending Batavia High School. I want to also wish all the new hires great success in Batavia's school system for the coming year and beyond. I want to thank Dominic Cotero. I did this afternoon, but for the fine inaugural touring season at the BFAC. My wife and I had full season subscription and we were not disappointed in any of the shows. I must admit we didn't go see Martha Speaks though, but I bet it was good. Please keep up the good work for next year and future seasons. And we've already renewed our season and it looks like they're going to have some new good shows coming this year. I attended the BFEE golf outing yesterday at Prairie Landing, and it was a great turnout and nice event despite the early morning rains and the downpour that came with about 2 holes to go. I hope enough money was raised to further help our teachers apply for good grants to help them in the classroom. And finally, as a short timer here right now for me, just starting, I finally want to thank Jack, Greg, and all the other retirees from the central office and wish them a fun-filled retirement. You deserve it all. Thank you.
There's just going to be a lot of congratulations. There's so many new staff, so congratulations, and I think we're going to need a new flow chart or something of all the new hires and everything. In the fall. But congratulations to all of our new hires and our retirees. And Jake back there hiding. That's why we're going to put you up here in a minute. And Melanie, congratulations. I'm glad to have you up here. Today I ran into two, just out of coincidence, just being out in the community, 2 teachers who worked. One is a teacher who's only been here for a couple years. One is a teacher who's been here for 30 years. And they asked about the board meeting tonight, blah, blah, blah. But Greg came up from both of them on separate, just out of the blue. I mean, it was, saying that this is Greg's last meeting. Both teachers at separate times said to me, I'm a better person knowing Greg and being in this district. And I couldn't agree. And I thanked you earlier today for sharing your plans. And it's just been great getting to know you and working with you. So I wish you all the best. Thank you. And to you also, Ron, you'll be missed. I enjoy working. You're not retiring, but you're going somewhere else. Somewhere else. You're going somewhere else. And again, to Jack, I've gotten to work with you as not a board member and as a parent, as a BIC member, and I just am going to really miss you, and I've enjoyed working with you, and I thank you for all you have done for me personally, and this district is better because of you, and I just really hope I wish you the best, and I don't think that this will be the last time I see you. No. But I just, thank you for everything you've done and taught me, and our students and our administration and everything. So thank you.
Well, I guess I'll be a broken record too.
Going to want to speak tonight, so we'll just go down the line.
Again, congratulations and welcome to Melanie. And to Jake, good luck back there. And I want to thank Don and Jason and Tony for providing some intellectual property to the district and saving a lot of time for the staff and particularly the parents, because when you mentioned that sweaty gym in August, and I'm going, what am I doing here? That brought back some scary memories. So that's nice to have that, and that'd be interesting to see how that develops and grows out of that. And it's neat to, we've got people with that kind of talent that shows how talented we are in this district. Again, good luck to you, Ron. I've enjoyed our conversations about sports and about finance. As for Greg, good luck to you. I've enjoyed our deep conversations about Blackhawk hockey, and also all the information and support you've provided me. I really will truly miss you. And of course, Jack, goes without saying, I'll support the training, the teaching that you've done to me individually, one-on-one. and to the entire board of how things operate. It was overwhelming to come in but yeah, it was great to come in with a board that had some seasoned veterans and we could pass that information and work this out. And I speak from a parent, from a representative of a volunteer group that we work together on, and now it's a board member. So I got to work with you, as Tina had said, in many different areas, and been nothing but completely supportive of it. And I know your support will continue to grow and probably expand in many different ways. But now that you have all that time.
I'll sign you up for Rotary.
But best of luck to you. And we will be in touch. Yes.
Again, a broken record, but I just want to.
It's hard to be on the stand whenever.
I know, it's like, by the time you get down here, it's
That's why I'm
pretty much, I reiterate what everybody said, but I do want to congratulate the graduates. I think we've kind of glossed over the fact that we had graduation, and that was really an exciting time for me. I really had a great time, and that was kind of fun to do. So congratulations, wherever life may take you. And I just want to welcome the new hires, say goodbye to everybody else. Welcome Dr. Hitchens, because she'll be stepping up shortly. And
Yes, she will.
Jack, thank you so much for just welcoming us, the new board, in wholeheartedly. And you were always there to answer questions, even though we haven't got to work together very much. You were just always there. So thank you so much, and best of luck to you.
Well, I'll congratulate Melanie here for joining.
And congratulations. Yeah, sorry.
Welcome. We'll be happy to be a sounding board for you, even though a lot of us are new as well. Jake, congratulations to you. Sorry for missing your interview, but I heard so many good things that I had to go forward with picking you as well. And I'm sure you won't let us down. Congratulations and thank you to Cindy Sikorsky for her retirement and service to our district. Greg, I've heard nothing but good things about you, and I really look forward to being able to work with you in our short time of doing so. I have no doubts that all the great things that people have been saying about you are fully supported by your actions, and I look forward to following your travels as well in the future. Ron, congratulations on your new endeavor as well. We've had great talks about the food service program, and I'm hoping to continue that passion along with that as well. You turned my sights to it, and I thank you for that, and congratulations on the great P-Card program. Class of 2013, of course, that was a great thing to be on the stage and see all those smiling faces and sweaty palms, and it was a great thing. And Dr. Barshinger, I just wanted to thank you for our short time working together. You've been a great sounding board for me, and yeah, I'm very confident that the firm foundation that you've laid for our district is going to lead to us building a great amount of success on top of it. So you definitely told me this is a thankless job. I haven't been fully entrenched in that yet, but I wanted to say,
What are you expecting?
I actually got a thanks, so I'll take that recently. But thank you, Dr. Barshinger, for your services, and good luck in your retirement.
I'd just like to say thank you to the board for the opportunity to be a board member, and I promise I will work hard and do my best to serve the community, the students, the teachers, the staff. The schools wouldn't work without our paraprofessionals as well as our support staffs, administrators. I also told Dr. Hitchens, I'd like to also say thank you to Kathy and Dr. Hitchens, who all weekend have been fielding my emails and questions and overanalyzing things. As an attorney, I tend to read documents and overanalyze them. So I was flooding her last night in the last 17 seconds of the Blackhawks game, and she actually responded to me right away with questions regarding the board book and whatnot. So I thank you very much for you guys'
There are new rules.
tutorial. But on that account, I will say I am a huge sports fan, and I told Dr. Hitchens last week that I would like to see Batavia go from a Class 4A stadium to the Class 7A stadium that they deserve and that the athletes deserve. So I would like to say that I will, whatever I can do to help make this a reality, whether it be out there pounding the pavement fundraising, getting the BYB board and other entities in Batavia on board to help out, because obviously it can't be underwritten completely by the taxpayers. I'm on board, but I find this to be an exciting endeavor, and I look forward to working with you all and serving the students and teachers and parents of Batavia.
So Melanie brings an interesting intensity, because one of the things she told us at our interview was, yes, last night I read through your policy. I just through your policy. And she even tried to break into administrative procedures. And couldn't get in. So we
And you'll
figure
be happy to know your IT staff did not let me have him today.
Dr. Bartner.
I wish we had time this evening, even though I have made it clear that I have won the board meeting length lotto for the first time in a long time.
Twice tonight, you let us know that.
Yes, twice. Once just before and then once afterward. But I wish I had the time to go through. I think everyone in this audience that I know a little bit or a lot, and the board, but I don't, so I'm going to go to some prepared script, but I apologize if I have, leave anybody out. But I want to start in my closing comments to our parents, and we often forget about them. And really thank the parents for sending us such great children. If our children reflect those parents, then we can all be proud, because they have done an extraordinary job. With the children I meet in Batavia are very special, whether it's the seniors with the sweaty palms going across the stage, or it's watching the freshmen at the high school on the first day, which is a lot of fun, or the sixth graders at the middle school, or the most fun is watching the kindergartners try to form the concept of a line on the first day. It's always a great reward. So those parents do a great job before we get them, and we hope we return them in even a better shape by the time we get through our 13 years. So, second, our teaching staff. Our staff continues to innovate. They meet very high standards. They meet our student needs. We all know that it's not a 9-to-3 job. Tony reminds us that several times throughout, but it's not. You go by our parking lots that need renovation because they're used all the time. Our teachers are there early. I'm still amazed at the number of cars as I went by at 7 a.m. at the high school or any one of our buildings. But I'm especially proud of the teamwork and the commitment of, and especially the BEA, Tony, and I really want to talk to you about that. Many things that we've done over the last 7 years, but one that I think I pestered and pushed the hardest on was our new teacher appraisal system. And the BEA, and specifically Tony, took a lead on that. Actually went so far as to get an invitation and work with me to get Audrey Soglin here, who is the state executive director of the IEA Association, and really has done an outstanding job. And our teaching staff should be proud of their union leadership. It is just amazing for the high standards in the teaching profession that they've set. And having high standards, Tony, if I can steal from you, makes a difference for the children of Batavia and continues to really grow. The district support staff, essential services, skills, as I've talked with Pat Brown and his team about, if they do things right, teachers can do a great job. If our vendors through operations can get the kids to school on time, kind of a pet peeve of mine, teachers have a better chance of having a great day with those kids. If we have a great lunch program, if the rooms are clean and they're safe, and the support staff is there to help with special needs children, they provide that foundation that makes the sky the limit as far as what we can do with our kids. So we can't overlook them, and actually had a great conversation today with Brian, who works in this office and sets up these board meetings each and every time, and pays attention to some of the details, and as we've made some changes, has done a real job. But thank you to their support with everything. And then to my administrative team, past and current, they're amazing. I say this, but I've never worked with a more dedicated, brighter group of individuals that think of kids first, themselves last. How many conversations we've had from office to office at 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock, during Sunday football, amazing or not. So I break my own rules. So getting ready to do the day-to-day operations. And they are a great day-to-day operations team, and they do an extraordinary job. And I say that because I think you've all, Melanie, you haven't been through board training, but that's the administrative role. And just to make sure that, I skipped a page, it's really going to be bad. And also to do the planning. I'm so proud of their growth and development, the long-term planning, which you saw an example of tonight in the high school fields of how doing long-term planning helps the Board of Education to talk about things in advance and to see what the innovative things that need to be done, even though when the plan isn't complete, but those planning documents are important. And finally, the Board of Education. I've always said this was the best board I've ever worked with. However, we've got a lot of new faces around this table. And as a former school board member myself, I know it will take you 12 months to learn your job. I was a central office administrator and got elected to a school board. I'm not sure why. I had enough board meetings the way it was. But it was the best 2.5 years, the term that I served, of public service I've ever done. It really, really is. But there's a pattern to this job. You'll start to see that pattern. It will take a while. But always ask yourself, what's the big picture? And am I leading with that policy book that you skimmed? You had to skim.
I read it, didn't I?
Are we staying on the balcony, which we heard tonight? You have a lot to learn and grow. And I am sure you are going to do it very, very well. You've had a very intense start, I will say, and you have done very, very well with some of the difficult assignments that I had the opportunity to throw at you in about 30 days. So I really do. And then finally, they're not here tonight, but my family. So my wife Susan has suffered through canceled dinners, date nights, being late for lots of events. So there's an old joke among superintendents. When you accept your first superintendency job, you always say to your wife that you're going to go out to dinner at least once a week so you can catch up and stay together. And you always keep your promise. However, your wife goes out for dinner on Tuesday night and you go out on Thursday night with some other meeting along the way. But I promised her that those almost 20 years of being a superintendent in 4 different communities, that will end tonight, because she said so. And I plan to see a lot more of my 3 children and grandchildren. And I know that the district will continue to be a district of excellence. I know it will continue to learn and grow. It's been a beacon as the teams have been out recruiting for some of our new positions, but some of our replacement positions. People, learn and grow here, and I think we spread that good work to other districts. Ron is a great example of taking what he has done for us and using it in other places in the future. And it's because of the hard work of everybody here. I want to close with one line, and I'm glad the newspaper reporters have left, correct? All, yes, for everyone. And I'll just say it this way, for the community, don't believe what you read in the newspapers. That's all I will say. Get involved, attend meetings, get to know your school district, your school board, the teachers, the administrators at your buildings. That's the most important thing. So President Dremel and the Board of Education, it's been an honor to serve all of you. I've never worked with a more honest and transparent organization, and that's after many school districts. So thanks for this opportunity, and as I conclude my work here tonight in a few minutes, I just want to say I'm proud of our employees, our students, and our community. So I have one other event, and I would ask Dr. Hitchens to join me on the dance floor. So back in 2006, which seems like ancient history, when a lot of things have changed, the administrative team, when I arrived, I gave each of them a compass, because we were going to set a new course, and we were going to stick with it, and we knew that we might have to move that compass from time to time. I think I used at that point a lot of sailing analogies because I'd just gotten my sailor's license and other things. So I want to pass this on. This is the one that's sat on my desk for a long time, even before I came here, but I brought this one with me. So I'm going to officially pass this on to her this evening as the final. And she promised me Thanks.
I think that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Everybody wants it to end.
Second.
Okay, moved by Locke, second by Students. When you call them all.
Are you waiting for me?
Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Keep waiting.
Oh, all in favor say aye. We're not going to call the roll. We like to shake things up. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Our meeting is adjourned.